This is attempt a million at doing this video because my editing software keeps deciding that instead of editing the video, it's just going to delete it. This week's video is about abuse. I was abused as a kid. A lot. I was emotionally abused. I was treated really terribly and told that I was a horrible disappointment because I was born a girl and not a boy. I was told that I was fat and made to watch my sister eat ice cream that I was denied to teach me a lesson about being so fat. I was told that my legs were like sausages ready to burst at the seams. I was called a slut because when I was like 8 or 9, the zipper on my jacket bumped out when I hunched over, and that was me being slutty and trying to have big boobs or look like I did. I was told that my laugh was too sexual, that my lips were big because I was practicing for kissing boys. I was told anytime I was friendly to a boy that I was being slutty. I was physically abused as well. I was choked, punched, slapped, kicked, pinched until I bled. Denied food, I think that qualifies as physical abuse. I was denied the opportunity to form friendships with people my age. I was isolated, not allowed to go to other people's houses or invite people to mine. I was denied birthdays. I was told that there was no money for my birthday, although my sister's birthday had plenty of money, and Halloween and back to school and Christmas and Thanksgiving, which were all events that happen the same time of the year, exactly like my birthday happened the same time every year. And it was horrible. And as a kid, I didn't know that I was abused because I didn't know what to expect from the world. And I didn't know about human rights. And I was told by my mom that she loved me more than anyone else's parents loved them, that I was lucky, that she was a good mother, and I was told very, very, very often that she wasn't abusive, and that I needed to make sure that my behavior didn't give anyone wrong ideas about her and make people think that she was. And when things would happen, like she threw me down the stairs one time and called me a Jewish lesbian because she didn't like how I did my hair, I had to come up with a reasonable way that I got those injuries so that people wouldn't get wrong ideas about her, because God forbid I taint her reputation. And my mom had a good reputation because she gave a very good performance of being a good person. She would be nice to people. She went to church. She donated to charities. She helped out. She was always the first to volunteer in the community that one of us would help out, picking up trash, or, when the museum didn't have funds to hire someone, my sister worked there for free and things like that. So, who would believe me anyways if I said it? Well, long story short, after I got to the point where I could, I moved out, and I moved 1,000 miles away from her. And it was really nice not having her in my life. And this week, she showed up at my work just a few days ago, unannounced, uninvited, and unwelcome. And she showed up at my work, and I had a major panic attack, and I didn't clock out before leaving. I just left, and I ran, and I hid, and I called my boyfriend to pick me up, and I left my car and all my belongings there, and I was really freaking out, okay? And abuse is serious shit. It's not really talked about enough in society, I don't think. And it isn't addressed the way it should be. I know there's been some stuff recently in the news about like Johnny Depp and what's-her-face and abuse allegations and stuff. And in America especially, but I think in the whole world, we have this mentality of siding with the aggressor. Because, it's like comic books, Superman always wins. And so we think the winner is the good guy. And we think the strong person is the person we want on our team. And in a lot of ways, that works really well when you're a caveman and you're trying to survive in a really scary, bad world where bad shit happens unpredictably. And that's why people get Stockholm Syndrome. But it isn't right, and it needs to change, because so many people think that these things are okay when they're happening to someone else. They think maybe it's not that big of a deal, and a lot of people think that if someone's abused, like, they should just magically gain the power to get out of it on their own, and that almost never happens. And most of the people who get abused aren't people who will ever be in a position to do that, because people who are abusive don't abuse Superman. They don't just go up to someone and ruin your day randomly. They target people who are weak. And in our society, that's women and children and people with disabilities and people of color and people who are not gender or sexually conforming. Minorities in society are the ones who get targeted because they're the ones that society's going to let it happen to. When I was going to college, we had a book that was for teachers to teach you how to recognize the signs of abuse in your students so that you could stop it. Because if you're a teacher or any kind of social worker, really, you're a mandatory reporter, which means you don't get to say, I don't think it's bad enough. You see a sign and you are legally required to report it. And when I was a young 20-something going through school reading that book, I was fucking terrified because every single sign in the book was something I had as a kid. And I was terrified that when I got home, because I wasn't allowed to live in dorms because my mom couldn't keep tabs on me in the dorms, I was terrified that when I got home, she would look through my books like she did when I was a little kid to make sure they weren't teaching me wrong things, and she would see that, and she would be mad, and she would force me to quit school. I was 20 and I was terrified that I would be pulled out of school, forced to quit school, for fear that someone would find out about the abuse that I was only just then realizing was abuse. And it made me really angry back then, because, yeah, for 2 years I was homeschooled, but for the rest of that I was in class, and during that time I had 100% of the signs. I'd fall asleep in class, or I'd go days without sleeping. I would hoard food, and I'd go days without eating. I didn't make friends. I startled easily. I would get scared. I friggin' peed my pants in school until 5th grade. And nobody spoke up. Nobody said anything. You can't always speak for yourself. Damn it, I didn't want to cry. So, this week's video is about abuse, because people need to stop being quiet. People need to stop standing by and letting it happen. It isn't the job of a little kid to call CPS because their mom is beating them up for not doing the dishes, or because they're not allowed to eat at home because their parents think they're fat. That's the job of everyone else who sees it happening. The point is, we're all humans, and we have a responsibility to each other to stop these things from happening and to prevent them. And in my lifetime, that responsibility has been failed over and over again. These are things that our society needs to address, and we need to end them and stop these things from being common norms. And we need to stop having this idea that it's the right of the strong to harm the weak. I'm going to end it there. I'm April Spectrum. As usual, like, share, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, leave your opinions in the comments, as well as any questions you have or suggestions for future shows, and I'll see you next week.